Welcome to Guy Code, a podcast dedicated to imparting dad wisdom to my son, with your host, Koji Steven Sakai, and friends.
Alrighty, welcome. This is Koji, and this is episode number 55. As everyone knows, by the way, we're now a monthly podcast. We're no longer daily, or not daily. We're never daily. We're no longer weekly. And also, before I get into my next podcast, I just wanted to remind people about my newest podcast, which is the Unofficial Official Story. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. Go to our website, go to anywhere you download it, and we tell paranormal true stories and conspiracies, and we do a really exciting job. All right, but we're here at Guy Code, so let's get into it. I wanted to impart all of my wisdom to my son, but of course my son already thinks he knows more than me. So instead of trying to tell him and having it go one ear and out the other ear, I decided to record them here in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, when he's ready, he'll listen to my advice and in the future not make the same stupid mistakes I made. I'll also bring on guests like I have now, as you guys can see, to impart their advice as well. And I have no doubt their advice is always going to be better than my advice. This week I brought on, actor, mommy, Dyana Liu. Dyana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Dan, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
So you're right. I have been living the mommy life for the past 5 years. I am a mom of 2 young boys. Before that, was in the entertainment industry, did film, TV, voiceover, that kind of stuff. Born in Taiwan, raised in New York, and have been in LA for well over a decade. New home.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It's funny that when I ask people to describe themselves, it's always curious to hear what people say.
Yeah, I would be too.
Because it's like it is interesting because in America it's very much about your job. Like that's the first thing people say. It's like I'm a lawyer or I'm a blah blah blah. And so I like that you said you're a mom first. That was interesting to hear. I never say dad first though, because
you don't.
That's too much. I'm the main caretaker, so but I don't think about he's not the first, like he's already always on my mind, so I try not to mention him too much in general. But I brought you on here to give advice to my son and to everyone listening, obviously, as well. So why don't you get started? Why don't you tell me your first piece of advice?
Okay, so this is related to my elder son's experience in pre-K right now. So I would tell Takao to look for the new kid in school, or that kid who is sitting by him or herself, playing by him or herself, and seek him or her out and offer a hello, a smile, something.
Why do you think that? Or why do you say that?
I think that, that kid is probably feeling left out, feeling lonely, and that one smile and that one conversation or that, extended, hey, do you want to play, could change things around for them. Maybe just that day, but maybe the course of the rest of their, schooling year, whatever. But did you want me to talk about how that relates to my older son?
Sure, if you want to. Yes.
So he's been at the same school since last year, but he had switched campuses after last year. And so when we switched him actually back due to whatever reason, when we switched him back to his old campus, he was the new kid, right? Everybody else had kind of gotten to know each other over the course of 3 to 4 months. And he was going through some stuff because there's one particular kid in the class who I think had kind of targeted him a little bit. And so Becca, would be in the bathroom and, this kid would like shove him. And, they were playing tricycles in the play yard and this kid would like ram him and give him this like really nasty bruise. And so Beckett was feeling, kind of bummed. And there was this girl who kind of, I think, witnessed that and reached out to him and said, I like to make friends with the new kids. Do you want to play? And meant the world to him.
Oh, that's cute. You should have your son do jiujitsu, by the way.
Yes, I know.
I mean, when my kid was in Takaos was in first grade, there's this bully at his school. He never bullied Takao, I don't think, at least, but he bullied all these other girls and boys, and he was really a nightmare kid. And he came to my son's academy, jiu-jitsu academy, and he wanted to spar with my son. And so I was like, oh, this isn't going to be interesting because he's like double the size of my kid. And Takao brought him down, put him in a choke, and then just like he did it like, and then he let him go, did it again. He did it like 6 or 7 times. And after practice, I was like, that's the bully of your school? That guy's a joke. Like the moment you like put him in a choke, he had like nothing to do. He's just bigger, and he thinks that these people are afraid of him. And the moment you were not afraid, he wanted to stop fighting you. And I was all like, from this point on, you should never be afraid of these people, because it's a lot of it's just talk. Like they just get away with being tough because they act tough, but not because they're really tough, And one of the things that jujitsu really does a lot of is they do a lot of role playing of like, they'll say things like they practice like not getting bullied. Like they'll I'll walk away from you. I'll be like, hey, don't touch me like that. But I'm already like walking away from you in position to like fight you if I need to, but not looking for a fight. I'm just like, hey, don't, like, especially with girls, don't touch me like that. I don't want you to touch me like that. You do that again, I'm going to hurt you. And then just that voice is usually enough to like stop the situation, but also like having the confidence to back it up too, being able to like, if the guy does attack me, then it's on, but like not looking for it, not needing to fight because you fight at practice all the time, but not needing to do it, but being like, like, hey, don't touch me. Because a lot of times, like, it's weird. A lot of times bullies, what I found from bullies is that they actually don't, a lot of times they're looking for like a tactile, they're very tactical people. So like if like, for example, like a lot of people I like bullied other people, like if I punched them back, we became best friends because they wanted that fight. Right. But the moment you like backed off, they just did it more because it's like, it's almost like a wolf thing. It's weird.
No, anyway, I get that. Like they're kind of sizing up. They're trying to see, are you at my level?
No, I don't even think it's at your level. I just think that there's something like physical about, like, there's like a physicalness, like a physicality to these people, some of these bullies sometimes, that like it's like a respect. It's not a respect. It's like, oh, that's like, oh, we could play now because that's how I play. Oh. And it's weird. It's a weird thing. And so the more you like back off them, a lot of times like they like pounce, as opposed to like, but if you stand up for yourself, it's like, then there's not as much, and then they're not going to do it anymore because they're like, oh, now we're on the same, like we play together the same way, even if you don't want to have nothing to do with them,
It's very feral.
It is. I mean, boys are in general, because I mean, me and my wife Marsha have a argument about type A boys, and whether it's going to be like, it's still going to be a thing. And I'm always like, guys are guys, I don't care how like open we are. Like guys are assholes a lot of times, and you just have to be, like you can't, like, like that was all.
My boys are super, super sweet. So well, do not scare me.
Well, I was worried. I was really worried about Takao, is that he's so nice, and I wanted him to be able to, to stand up for himself and be like that guy when he needs to be, like he should be nice and friendly, but like at the same time,
you gotta stand up for yourself, and have the tools and the arsenal to
be able to back it up. Yeah. Because I mean, half of it is just verbal, actually. Funny story, I was at this place called what is it called? Oh my god, it's a indoor water park near Disneyland. I forget the name of it now. Wolf Lodge. Terrible place, don't go. But I was in a situation where this guy, this bigger guy, he's kind of obese, his kids were making I was standing next to him in line, sorry, and his kids were making fun of these girls next to me and just like being really rude and calling them fat and stuff. And I was just like, the girls were crying, and I was like, hey, stop. Like I told the kids, stop it. I don't want to, like, just, and then they started talking back, and I was like, just stop. Don't talk to me. Like I'm the parent. I'm the adult. You're the kid. And then like the dad came up to me and he's like, you want to fight? And I was like, yeah. Like I was like, if you want to fight me, I'll kick the shit out of you in front of your kids right now. Like I was like, I'm not afraid of you if you're like 200 pounds heavier than me. I'm gonna kick the crap. I fought bigger people than you. And I like got in, because I do jiu-jitsu. I like fought a lot when I was a kid. And I was like, and ready. And he looked at me and he like grabs his kids and walks away. And like I was like, are you gonna fight him? I was like, I'm not gonna fight. We're at a like a water park. But if he's gonna attack me, I'm not gonna let it. I'm gonna take him down. I'm gonna hurt him. But like I'm not gonna back off either though, because his kids were in the wrong, and I didn't like I never touched the kid. I would never touch the kids. I would never, like I would just say, hey, stop. I'm a dad. That's my job.
Yeah. Hey,
But
question.
yeah,
Do you have an issue disciplining somebody else's child? Say
no,
say open spaces, public arena, playground.
no.
What's your take on that?
I would never touch a kid.
Mhm.
I never lay any. I mean, even like just to stop them from doing something. I just don't. I don't feel like I should touch a kid. But I'll use my dad voice. I'm like, stop. I don't like. I'm the adult. I'm okay with yelling at another kid, especially if they're doing something wrong, or especially protecting another kid.
Okay.
Like if I see somebody getting bullied, I could stop it. Like I don't mind. I mean, I think before when I was before being a parent, I wouldn't have done it. But now I don't have time for for the kids being like little shit.
We give 0 Fs. I was like, can I swear?
You can swear, yeah. I mean, and it's true. Like, just like that's my job as a parent is
Yes.
to discipline children, even if it's not my child, it's okay, within reason, obviously. I mean, I'm not gonna like sit there and scream at the kid and bite him or something, but I'm gonna stop whatever. And a lot of times it's just, especially with the younger kids, I could stop them with my voice, right? Hey, stop.
Mhm.
You can't do that. It's not okay, right? Like nothing more than just like a verbal, like especially if you see on the playground kids getting hit or something happening,
I
stop.
feel like I'm comfortable with that right now because the boys are small. Obviously, when they get older, say they're in their teens.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. It's over.
With my stature, especially to kind of handle that. But
Yeah, and at that point, like I hope my son's ready to like stand up for himself a little bit, and actually, but to your note, to your advice, which I think is really interesting, one of the conversations I have with Marcia a lot is that I actually think it's a good idea for kids to change schools relatively frequently, because I think it's good to like, yeah, only because, well, two things. I think one is it's good to like have to make new friends, to be able to like have that ability, because I think too many kids go to college for the first time they've ever had to make new friends, and that's like a terrible time to try to make new friends for the first time. But second, I think it's like, I think there is like, for example, for me, I went to a prep school until like 10th grade. And then I went to a public school in 11th or halfway through 10th. And I remember like I was the bully class clown. Like I just like fought everybody and I was just like an asshole. I was a jerk. And then I went to my public school, and the first day I realized I didn't have to do that anymore. I could just be myself, because at the prep school, I was this persona. And I had to be the guy that made fun of people. I had to be the clown. I had to be the jokester. And when I went to the new school, I was like, nobody here knows me.
right.
Like I don't have to do that. I kind of reinvented myself a little bit. I could be more myself. Like I didn't want to be that guy anymore. And it was like really, really refreshing. And it happens a lot with people in college too, right? Like they were one way in high school and they change in college. But I think that's I mean, it really helped me become a better person. And it really made me like, it took a lot of pressure off me as a, like even after, it's funny, even after I left the school and I still interact with my friends, like they're like, there's a new kid, if you were here you'd fight him. I'm like, what? Like that's what you're going to talk to me about? Like, like I was like, oh wow, I was a terrible human being, like I was just
How did they adjust to Koji 2.0? Were they like, where are you? Like,
no, because I think I was hanging out with them not at school anymore, so we were fine. Like I wasn't like picking on kids outside of school. I was more like in school in class. I was like the guy that's like clowning you in class, making fun of you, making fun of what you're wearing, and just making you feel bad about yourself.
Probably would have made me cry.
I was terrible. I went to the 20-year reunion trying to apologize to people. Like, I'm sorry. The main people that I was really mean to weren't there. So
It's not great. So
yeah, and this is why, actually, to get back to my son, the reason I was really worried about him getting beat up was I was such a terrible human being. As a kid, I was worried that it's karma, that he's going to get beat up. He's gonna... I was like, you need to protect yourself. Yeah. All right, well, let's hear your next piece of advice.
Okay, I think it's related, actually. Let me check. So the next, yeah, kind of related to what we were talking about, to speak up when you see injustice, even when you're alone in doing so. That I think, it's pertinent in our time right now, and
Yeah.
what society and the world is dealing with. But in the microcosm that they live in, yeah, you see a kid being picked on by young Koji. You speak up. Even
Yeah.
when somebody
Well,
is.
I have another story about being like picking on people. I was a terrible human being, like I said. But in seventh grade, my seventh grade teacher, she said something, or eighth, it was eighth grade teacher. She said that homophobia is unattractive. And at the time, it was like the funniest thing I'd ever heard because the word homophobia, right?
Right.
And I was just a stupid boy. But then, like, I mean, that's what I remember from eighth grade. That's the only thing I remember from eighth grade is that she told me that, and that
Yeah.
it became true. It was true that it was unattractive, right?
Mm.
But that, like, her telling me that, not just me. I mean, she told the whole class. So it wasn't just me, but like her telling me that meant something. That later I realized the truth of her words, even if it took me years, and it took me like to understand that, like, yeah, it is unattractive. I was a terrible human being, and that like, but if she had, I mean, she could have just like let it go, right? She could have like just let me be and then it would have taken me even longer to be okay. Not I was never like homophobic, I don't think, but it just like but back in the day you'd say like words that you can't say now.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
And back then, like, being a guy is very different back then. Like, I always joke about like you couldn't sit next to another dude at a movie theater. You had to like have a seat between them because it was gay, or quote gay, right? Like that was stupid. I mean, I don't know if it was like that in Taiwan. It was like that in America.
You know that, yeah.
Yeah, like I couldn't, because like, and you couldn't hug a guy, right? Or you couldn't like show emotions, or else like you're gay. Like it's the world's a different place now, right?
And so your friendships with your guy friends in school looked very different from, say, when you guys were just hanging out one-on-one at home. And
Yeah. Well, and even at home, you couldn't do that. Like it was like that was what's sad about guy relationships, was that it was like you couldn't really be vulnerable, because it's like I'm gonna, then you're like not a man. That's why I had a lot of women friends, because with women I could talk like
Mhm.
my feelings. I could talk about life. The guys, I'm like, let's talk about the Lakers,
Yeah.
and like let's fight each other, let's play sports.
Right, that there's this crisis with adult males and
Mhm.
their lack of friendships,
Yeah.
right? They're in America, at least.
Yeah.
And I find that to be true.
Yeah. I mean, it was a weakness. Showing emotion was a weakness to other men, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it plays in, like, and the men that are alive now are older men like me, who grew up in that time. I had all these guy friends who probably couldn't tell me anything about me, which is sad, right? They weren't really. I mean, they were like, we were friends and that we hung out in the same area, but we didn't know each other.
Right.
We didn't really know who we were.
Yeah.
But that, anyway, yeah. So I love that piece of advice. So I think that that's a great piece of advice. Have you ever been in that situation recently, or has there?
For speaking up,
Yeah.
um, nothing specific comes to mind, but I know that we deal with this with Beckett a lot. Like, I feel as though we're always telling him, don't don't keep quiet. If you see something that's wrong, tell the teacher, say something. So I think that is a continuous kind of lesson that Elliot and I bring up.
Yeah. And
For
with
sure.
for me at Takao, I always say you have to, like, the only reason you get in a fight is somebody's going to hurt you, or they're trying to hurt somebody else.
Mhm.
Those are the two reasons you get in a fight.
Does
And
he feel comfortable speaking up? Especially when he's like the lone.
I think, I mean, I've talked to him about it a lot,
Yeah.
but I don't know if, I mean, in real life situations, I'm not sure what he would do in a real life situation, but I know he could, I mean, I know he could fight the kids if he wanted to. So I don't think he's like,
I'm gonna roll back in for sure. Like, Ellie and I have been talking about this, martial arts.
yeah.
I don't think we've settled on a specific one, but it's good to hear.
You
You have
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
me.
Well, you know what it is,
Yeah.
the biggest thing of a lot of martial arts, 'cause I did kendo, which is Japanese sword fighting, for 25 years. And the problem with that was that it's so form that if you waved a sword at me, I probably couldn't beat you, because like if you do something weird, I can't fight you back. I don't know how to react to something. That,
Oh.
so like that's a lot of martial arts, is that like karate or taekwondo or whatever. It's like it's very formulaic. It's like a dance. I do something, you do something, I do something back, you do something. The problem is that in a real fight, nobody does what you want them to do, right? They're like, I'm going to hit you in the side of the face with my right hand, right? Like that's not the reality.
Yeah.
So like the best martial arts are the ones where like they're allowing you to react to what's actually happening. So like in jiu-jitsu, for example, when you're actually fighting, there's no, like you can't punch and kick somebody, but there's no other, like they're not telling you what they're about to do to you. So then like I react to what you're doing to me. So in a real fight, that's what happens, right? So like I could fight like if I fought somebody without a sword or with a sword, there's a 50% chance I win, even though I'm like a quote black belt. You know, my jiu-jitsu teacher, if he fought anybody on the street, he would win. There's a 0% chance that person wins. And it's because like they would, you know, if you know jiu-jitsu, great, we could fight jiu-jitsu. If you don't know jiu-jitsu, then we could fight because you don't anticipate what I'm about to do anyway. It's more unpredictable though. So there's like, you know, it's not like 100% kind of thing. But and I think to me, that's like the big difference between a lot of martial arts is that, you know, a lot of the martial arts just won't, they give you a false sense of security in a real situation because you think that like the fight's going to go. And then the other thing about jiu-jitsu, sorry, I'm like, this is like a jiu-jitsu commercial.
Fascinating to me because, you know, people do want to get in. So
and the other thing is that most fights end up on the ground with people. Like at first you stand up and fight, right? But at some point, two people end up wrestling on the ground at almost every fight. And the person who does jiu-jitsu will always win that fight when it gets on the ground. Because like you know what to do and the other person doesn't. And then the last and most important reason is that it's the ultimate it's the best it's the only anti-bullying martial art because it's the one that doesn't teach you to punch and kick. So so the problem with a lot of punching and kicking is that the first thing they do is go punch and kick somebody. But the other thing is like, you know, even in like I tell Takao on a fight at school, you know, like just bring them down, sit on their chest, bring them down, sit on them and wait for somebody to come. And you know, like it's actually more embarrassing for the other student just to sit on them and make it so they can't to be like immobile, you know, just hold them immobile and then they can't move. And then you can't get in trouble because they'll just say, hey, he tried to hit me. I brought him down. I sat on top of him and waited for you to come. You know, because the problem with hitting is once you hit somebody, they could actually die, right? You could fall over, hit your head, you could get a concussion. You know, it's pretty hard to kill somebody with jiu-jitsu. You know, like you could choke somebody, but usually you just let them go and they're fine. You know, but anyway, that's my jiu-jitsu.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah. I mean, and kids, like, I think for kids, it's really great to be like, I mean, basically like wrestling to other people. And so it's good to like, it's tactilely, it's like good to just hold people and push them down and you know, have fun.
You know, I think Ellie and I, we're gonna sign up for this too. I think we need some of these skills.
Yeah, I do it. I have so much fun. It's like the best thing I do all my life. So once we could do it again. But sorry, that was a jiu-jitsu thing. Let's hear your third piece of advice.
Sponsored by
sponsored by my academy that I go to.
You guys go to one in South Pass?
No, Pasadena.
Pasadena, okay.
Yeah, if you want, you can buy once everything opens again. We can come by and you can check it out because I think that would be a great place for you guys to. They're good with kids too.
We will talk more about this.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Well, what's your next piece of advice?
Okay, next piece of advice. Okay, so for Takao and then because I have two boys, wear a dress if you want. Okay, so Beckett very recently was introduced to Frozen, and you know, he's a gentler boy. I mean, you know, he likes to play, but he is a gentler boy. And you know, so he really gravitates towards I think what our society would deem as, you know, girly things, right? So he saw that movie and he really loved it. He sings all the time to it, and he loves Anna. So he asked me just the other day if I could get him an Anna dress, and I said absolutely.
Wow.
You know, it doesn't mean anything, but it allows him to, you know, I think be able to figure out what he wants, what he likes, and who he is. And we give him the freedom to do that.
That's great. I don't think kids care as much as we do about things like that.
Yeah. And you know, he's 4.
Yeah.
So at this point too, it's like,
no, but even like, I like the cow. I don't think he cares about like we saw snowmen, and I was like, hey, look at the snowman, and he's like, no, that's snow people. It's just part. And I was trying to explain, like, not that, like your kid's transgender and it, but we were talking about transgender issues, and he's like, what's the big deal? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no big deal. Like for
There's
him, it's like it doesn't matter.
right.
I think it's more about the parents and the adults that care
It is.
about
It
this.
is absolutely, yeah.
And they make it such a big deal, then it gets crazier because you're just making such a big deal out of it.
No, I take that back. It is largely about the parents, but because the parents are, the biggest influence in the child's life, I think,
And then it
you
reflects the
at
kids. Yeah.
this age, at Beckett's 4 years old,
Yeah.
that already, self-segregate,
Yeah.
right? Due to gender and subscribe to norms and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I remember when Takao was into Frozen, that was a tough time in my life. We had to watch it all the time. And we even went on vacation and they had like
hey.
we had to like there was like a at the hotel they had like a screening in the pool, so we had to sit at the pool watch them again like for the 90 millionth time. We had to watch it, everyone's singing, and it was just like fuck, that was a terrible time. Now he's like embarrassed that he claims he never even seen it before. So we're at that stage. But yeah, I love that, and I do think that you should like I think gender fluidity is like it makes guys, it's gonna make guys better. It's
I
gonna
do
make,
so.
because it just allows us to be better, human beings. They're more well-rounded human beings, right?
Explore. There's nothing wrong. Just
Yeah,
explore. Figure out what you
yeah,
like. Figure out who you are. Fine.
yeah. Although I still think guys are guys, so I do worry. I was always worried about my kid,
Yeah.
that if he likes certain things, to be like, oh no, not. I wasn't worried about, like, I'm not embarrassed or worried, but I was more worried about like how it's gonna play out with
Yeah.
other friends in the
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
right? Because
Like
people are terrible.
we allowed them to have their freedom, but when they walk out into the world, how are they going to, how are they going to be?
Yeah, how are people going to look at that, and how are they going to judge and view, and I mean, that's one of the things that I think the biggest issue with this whole COVID situation and not going to school, for my son at least, was that like part of being going to school is like liking a girl and they don't like you back, liking a
Yeah.
girl and they like you back, losing a best friend, making a new best friend, having a teacher you hate, but having to deal with that person, like you have to deal with that person, or the teacher you love, or, playing with different friends. Like that's the stuff that you can't learn at home. And that's the stuff that's like the most important at their age. That's like, that's the stuff that like I think is super, super important, because that's how you learn about yourself. That's how you learn how to be a better person, or a person, right?
Is he is Takao still open with talking about his feelings with you at this point?
Yeah, he tells me, I mean, he has no filter at this point. So, I mean, he doesn't tell me about like liking girls or anything. He thinks that they're like dirty, or
Oh,
he doesn't like girls in that way, which is good, which is fine. I think it's normal. I mean, he's gonna like whoever for the rest of his life. I don't,
yeah.
I don't push like him. I think that's where a lot of like the girl raising girls goes wrong, is it's like the dream of the girl is to marry some dude, and I'm like, that shouldn't, like, why are you talking about that as a story? Like the story should be like a hero and be heroic minus dude, you know.
Yes. Yes.
But like that's why I like girls in like kindergarten were already like liking boys, and they're doing all these things already, and like the boys are like they didn't want anything to do with the girls,
Yeah.
and that has a lot to do with just being raised. Like all the stories of girls were like finding a boyfriend or
Oh,
finding
wait.
a husband.
You're,
That's sad. That's really sad.
that's the end goal, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean,
And that is the end goal. That's why Frozen was cool, because it's not about the dude, it was about the
Mhm.
sisters, and right, and
Yeah.
being letting it go or whatever, right?
I know you know every single word of that song still.
Oh my god, I hate those. That was terrible. That's what they don't tell you as a parent, is how many times you have to watch movies,
Yes,
like,
everything.
or shows or whatever. It's like over and over and over. And then the problem is that they actually forget it, but you
Yeah.
continue. Like I can remember like all the Yo Gabba Gabba, which wasn't terrible, but
Oh,
I
we
could
have.
I can watch. I've watched all of them, and I know all of them. I could recite what happens. But then, I was like, I watched Yo Gabba Gabba. I was like, oh my god, we went to the live show. I know everything about Yo Gabba Gabba, but you seem to remember zero of this show now. It's terrible. Yeah, that's
Oh,
hilarious. Another thing I think that people don't. I always tell my non-parenting friends is the bathroom. how much bathroom becomes a part of your kids, like your life or your kid's bathroom experience plays. Like, so for example, when a baby, you're worried that they're not pooping enough. And then you're worried about the color of the poop and how much they're pooping. And then as they get older, you start to worry about why aren't they being potty trained? And then you worry later, and then I have to sit in the stall with him. They're not sitting in the stall, but I have to be in the stall. Like I mean, eventually, hopefully I don't have to be in the bathroom anymore with him, but it's like the bathroom.
Is he comfortable going in school?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
But I think it's like he doesn't want to, But when we go out to places, like I have to go in the stall with him.
Right.
Man, like why do I have to do this? Like I can be like, can I be outside the bathroom or can I be near the sink? Like why do I have to watch you? I don't want to watch you do this.
Dad, Koji.
Yeah, or you have to wipe the butt for a while, right? And then it becomes then they learn how to wipe themselves. It's just a lot of pooping.
How did you teach him how to wipe his butt? Because there's a couple techniques out there.
Oh.
And I'm curious what you guys used.
I don't even know if we use it. I just fold it up, wipe it, look at it, and do it again until there's nothing there.
That's straight.
Yeah.
There's this thing out there where I think you tie two balloons to show the
the butt. Okay. Interesting.
I'm like, I've got balloons, but I'm not using
yeah.
we're just gonna wipe.
It's just you just have to do it enough and then you don't have to think about it anymore. But he's a dirty little boy, so he doesn't sometimes even wipe his butt, which is nasty. Because boys are nasty. They're just nasty creatures in general. Okay, well, what's your fourth piece of advice?
All right, what is my fourth? Okay, so keep your grandparents close if you're lucky that they're still around. My parents live down in San Diego or North County, San Diego. So, relatively close. And they've been heavily involved in the raising of our kids.
Okay.
And I can see, what that kind of, 3 generation in one household does for them. And I like it. So,
nice.
I just said, they're able to offer the boys perspectives and life lessons that you need, but also serve to remind you where you come from, awareness of your lineage and the sacrifices made by those that came before you who allow you to have now the life that you live.
Yeah, I want to be a grandpa.
You want to be a grandpa?
I want to be the grandpa. Yeah,
they're fun.
Because then I can do whatever I want, and then when it's too much, I could just give them back.
Yeah.
I could spoil them, buy candy and ice cream and toys. I could buy everything, and I don't care. By the time it's spoiled child, I'm dead.
I feel like that's the role of grandparents. You're done with your own responsibility of raising kids.
Exactly.
And now you just spoil your grandkids.
Yeah, whatever you want, I'll go buy and I'll bring it over. And I'll let the parents deal with it.
Yes.
Oh, you want a drum set? Let's go get a drum set. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize he was going to play it all night.
Not your fault.
Not my fault.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves me. I didn't say no.
Yep.
That's a good one. I really like that. Yeah.
But I know that, not everybody is fortunate enough to have that relationship or, have them close by. So we cherish that and, make sure that.
And I think that's one of the problems with America is that there's not enough passing down from older generations. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. When I first had back at my mom stayed with me for the first 6 months. So as I became a mom for the first time, she was there, you know, and taught me a lot of things that I'm still used to this day. And I'm not gonna,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. My mom was already sick and my dad was passed away. So, but it would be awesome. I already told Takaos I'm living with him rent free. And I expect a per diem per day that I can spend. So I'm already getting commitment.
That's the bare minimum, I feel.
Yeah. And if he makes the major leagues, then I get my own house.
Yeah. On the you want it on the same property?
No. If he buys me a house, then he should buy me a separate house that I could live at.
Oh,
Yeah. But if I have to live with him, then I need my own room, obviously.
that's-
And I'm not doing any work.
yeah.
Like I'm not going to cook or clean or something. I'm not the maid.
You're gonna be taken care of. Don't worry. That's what
No.
we're doing.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
my parents, actually. So I don't know if. Do you know that we're moving to Burbank?
No, I
Hopefully-
didn't.
Yeah. So we've been building a house over there,
Okay.
and hopefully it should be finished in the next few months or so. And so we have a ADU.
Okay.
So that down the line, when mom and dad,
Grandma. It's the grandparent suite.
yeah, it
Right.
is.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear your last piece of advice.
All right, last one. Okay, travel. That's it. Travel the world, meet different people, learn different languages, experience cultures, traditions, food, see how others are different but also just the same, to gain perspective on yourself, your role in the world, what you strive for, and for compassion.
What does that teach you?
Compassion, I believe, leads to more vulnerability, and that leads to strength. So
And-
more strong men in the world, but strong in the right way.
Mhm.
I recently finished that book by, I might be kind of behind on this, but by Brene Brown, Daring Greatly. And
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
oh,
What is it about?
so she is an expert on shame and vulnerability, and basically how compassion is the key to vulnerability, and vulnerability is, contrary to what I think a lot of people perceive it as, actually strength. And this is especially relevant to men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men are weird creatures.
So let's raise better men.
Yeah. Men are like monkeys compared to the women or the girls at the same time. They're like, the girls are like, I remember in preschool, the boys are like grunting at each other, and girls are like talking in full sentences, or they're
Yeah.
like drawing castles, and the boys are like scribbling.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, 18-year-old girls are not at the same level as an 18-year-old boy. They're
Right.
like,
Biologically, it's just different.
but also just I think like maturity level. I think I think that also what expectations are different, right? Between 18-year-old girl and 18-year-old boy, and that's one of the reasons I like if there wasn't an issue about physicality and being like how big people are, like boys should be held back a couple of years.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Maturity wise, we're not even on that. That's why 18-year-old girls never date 18-year-old boys, because they're like not on the same level, right? It doesn't make any sense, because they're not like, the boys are like 16-year-olds compared to the
Yeah, no, it's true. I think that's why I worry about my younger one, Penn, because he's going to be entering the same school system as Beckett, which is the French school system. And they start you, no matter what, the calendar year you turn 3. And Penn is born at the end of the year. So we can't hold him back. That's not possible for this. So he's going to start, this year. And I'm worried because Beckett was starting at almost 3.5, and Penn is before 3. And
yeah, no, that's a big concern, because I was like, that's why we had our Takao at October, so he'd be the oldest kid in his class, because it starts in September is the new school year. And so we knew that he'd be 11 months older than the youngest kid, which is a huge difference in terms of just maturity, height, and just and in sports he's gonna have advantage in sports and stuff. But yeah, that's boys are like, they're always like, they're behind. Like, it was funny, we just had dinner with one of Takao's friends, this friend who's a girl, and her family, and it was like, the girl like asked me about my job, and I'm like, like, she's like, so what do you do for a living? And I was like, what? Like, and then she like turns to Takao, and she's like humoring him. Like, I was like, in his own world, he doesn't care about what the other parents doing for a living, and it's just it's very interesting to see, like, wow, this is like
that, just juxtaposition right away.
Yeah, he's like a monkey, and she humors him, and she like, and then like later and I'm like she doesn't care about anything you're talking about Minecraft and all this other crap, and he's like, no, she does, she really likes it. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, she's just like being nice to you. Like she felt like I was like maybe she even feels sorry for you, but she's like listening. She pretends to care, like, which is like every girl boy relationship in the future. But it's like no, he's like no, she cares, she cares. I was like, did she play a video game? No. Well, then why would she care? Like.
Really funny.
I was like, and then she invite her to the birthday party, but she doesn't play this video game. Why does she want to come? Just invite her. I'm like, okay.
Are you guys still doing like the whole class, invitation to birthdays? Okay.
No.
I wonder when, that's supposed to end.
I think after kindergarten.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, it's too hard. Even kindergarten is like, I don't think I invited everybody in kindergarten. Because by then it's like we had preschool friends still that we hung out with, and then we had kids from like the different sports teams or jiu-jitsu or something, and it would be too much to be like an additional 30 kids. Right. Yeah, it's too much people, too many people.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. I was thinking, kindergarten sounds about right. In the 3-4-year-old range.
Yeah. Then because then it's like all just a bunch of kids from the preschool or the daycare or something and they all kind of like they don't really know each other. Like they don't hate each other at this point or have weird cliques at this point.
It all changes in kindergarten.
It all changes in kindergarten. Well, but it's like that's one of the reasons why also I think that when we talked about like, not going to the same school for their whole life is that like kind of who you are in kindergarten, first grade is kind of who you become later. Like when they see you as a senior, it's hard to be like somebody totally different, and one of the ways that changes is by changing schools because there's no more preconceived notions of who you are in kindergarten. Like, I mean, I bet you like if a kid was like wetting his pants a lot at school, like you're that kid for the rest of that time.
Right.
Like they'll remember it forever. I mean, they might not call it to your face but they will like, that's like in their head, like I see it at Takaos school. Like there's I already know the cool kids. I can see they were cool in first grade. Yeah. They're going to always be the cool kids.
Actually, you're right. Because I still remember this first grade kid named Nathaniel who used to eat Elmer's glue. Like I will never disassociate that.
Yeah.
He's always the dude that sat in front of me and just ate Elmer's glue.
Yeah. He's a weird kid, right? He becomes that kid.
Probably a totally fine,
Yeah. I'm sure he's normal, but that's the problem with like 12 years of being in the same place is that you get that, like that perception, that's why like, even for kindergarten, I was telling the cows, like, you gotta like think about what things you do, think about how you act, think about like when you talk to people, like, that like it all makes like everyone's watching you, like, so don't don't like do something crazy, but because it is like there is that like social pressure about Takao's okay because he's a very flighty, like he could be like he plays with like different groups at recess. He could like he's good, like we go to a park, he could go play with kids he doesn't know. He's pretty good about doing that. He could play like he's good at sports. He could do like he could fit in with most boys because he could play sports. But like you just never know. This is why like sports was such a big thing to me, though. That's my advice to my kid, was always like play a sport and play it well, because boys are physical creatures at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
And the more like
in soccer.
Okay. Yeah.
Tennis. So hopefully that'll.
Yeah. Because the kids that get picked on are the ones that are by themselves. And if you play a sport, you're not by yourself.
That's true.
Like even like when I played water polo, and if the kid was getting picked, somebody on my team was getting picked on, I would go fight that kid. Even if I didn't like the kid on my team, it's just like, why would you like pick on somebody that's on my team? That's like, it's insulting, like that, like by itself is like, okay, that kid's not going to get picked on anymore because I'm going to guarantee that, or, or basketball or soccer or baseball or tennis or whatever it is. Like you have a group of people around, like the kids who get picked on are by themselves.
Yeah.
That's true. And they're, like you said, like talk about like, being by yourself as a new kid. That's like, those are the kids that are vulnerable, right?
They are, right.
So like when I went to new school, like my goal is to get on the field, because I knew once I get on the field, I'll be fine. I could just prove myself on the field and I could make some friends.
Yeah.
But, but it's always precarious. But
you wouldn't switch the cow out, right?
Well,
I know
we've talked about like middle school, going to somewhere and then coming back for high school.
Really?
Like doing a private, like we always wanted to go private actually. That was always the initial goal. But we didn't end up doing that. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, most likely he's just going to stay where he is and go all the way. Yeah, best laid plans, I guess. All right. Well, thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was good talking to you,
It was
man.
really good talking to you. And thank you everyone for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast, and please check out my other podcast, the Unofficial Official Story. And thank you.